Call box. A story by Old Donald. Jamal Thompson leaned against the cracked red bricks of the old train station wall, his eyes following the rhythm of people weaving through the terminal. The late evening sun cast golden shafts through the station windows, painting long shadows across the floor. He held a takeout bag in one hand. It was his mom's favorite chicken curry from the little Caribbean place on the 8th and a worn canvas messenger bag slung across his chest. He wasn't loitering, just waiting. Before we continue, tell us, where are you listening from? Let the world know this could happen anywhere. See ya in the comments. His sister's bus from Philly was running late, and this station didn't have seating unless you bought a ticket. Jamal had learned long ago that standing too long in one place could draw attention, especially attention he didn't want. But tonight, he didn't feel like pacing. His feet hurt from the double shift at the hospital, and he just wanted to get home. That was when the cruiser pulled in. Officer Darren Whitmore had been on edge all week. New citywide mandates, budget cuts, and a scathing internal memo about public perception had everyone walking on eggshells. But when the dispatch radio crackled with a call about a suspicious male possibly casing the train station, he didn't hesitate. His cruiser rolled to a stop, tires crunching over gravel. He stepped out, adjusted his duty belt, and scanned the scene. There he was, male, black, hoodie, standing near the wall with a bag. Not pacing, just watching. Whitmore's gut tightened. Too still, too calm. Jamal spotted the cruiser immediately. He straightened, tucking the takeout bag tighter under his arm. The officer was already walking toward him, shoulders squared, eyes locked. Jamal felt the familiar cocktail of dread, annoyance, and exhaustion settle into his bones. "Evening," Whitmore said as he approached, trying to sound casual but already assessing risk. "Waiting on someone?" "Yeah," Jamal replied, keeping his voice easy. "My sister. Her bus is late. Mind showing some ID?" There it was. Jamal blinked slowly, stalling, not from surprise but fatigue. "Am I being accused of something?" Whitmore tensed slightly. "You match a report we received." "Just doing my job, sir." Jamal stared at him, saying nothing. The scent of his mother's curry wafted upward. Whitmore shifted his weight, one hand resting near his hip. Not on the weapon, not yet, but close enough to remind. "Let's not make this difficult." "Officer," Jamal said slowly, "I'm a registered nurse. I just got off a 14-hour shift. That's dinner in this hand and compression socks on my feet. I've been standing here 20 minutes, waiting for my sister. I don't fit anything except tired." Whitmore didn't respond immediately. His eyes flicked to the security camera over the ticket window, then back to Jamal. "ID," he said again, more firmly. Jamal didn't move for a heartbeat. Then, with precise, slow hands, he reached into his messenger bag and pulled out his wallet. No sudden moves. He held it open, letting the officer see his hospital ID, driver's license, even a sticky note from a patient saying thank you, Nurse Jamal. Whitmore looked it over. He didn't say anything, just stared at the card. His shoulders tightened, not from tension now, but discomfort. His jaw moved slightly like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Jamal waited. A minute passed. Then Whitmore stepped back. "All right," he said quietly. "Just doing my job." Jamal gave a small nod, no smile. "You always do your job like this?" The words weren't loud, but they landed like a brick. Whitmore didn't answer. He turned, walked back to the cruiser, and drove off without another word. The wind stirred the wrappers near the curb. A family walked by, casting curious glances. Jamal leaned back against the wall again, feeling the weight of 1,000 such moments pressing into his shoulders. A text buzzed on his phone. "Just arrived. Coming out now." Jamal tucked the phone into his pocket and waited, bag in hand, not moving, not pacing, just tired. The bus doors hissed as they opened. Out stepped Jamal Thompson, petite, bright-eyed, and talking on her phone with a kind of energy that felt foreign to Jamal in that moment. "Jay!" she shouted, breaking into a grin. "You look like a zombie." He couldn't help but smile. They embraced briefly, and he handed her the takeout bag. "Don't say I never do anything for you," he said. Deja wrinkled her nose playfully. "Mom's curry? You're trying to bribe me with rice." As they walked toward the car, Jamal glanced behind him once more. The cruiser was gone, but the weight of it lingered. He didn't say anything, but Deja could tell something was off. 3 days later, Jamal sat at his kitchen table, laptop open, watching a video that had just been uploaded to social media. Someone had recorded the incident from the station bench across the way. The caption read, "Why does this keep happening? Black man harassed for standing still." The video had already racked up 400,000 views in 12 hours. He watched it twice, 3 times, then closed his laptop. Jamal wasn't a man who liked attention, but he also wasn't one to let silence protect the guilty. He filed a formal complaint the next day. At the Internal Affairs Division, Officer Whitmore sat stiffly in a gray chair across from 2 plainclothes investigators. A copy of the viral video sat between them on a tablet, paused mid-frame on his face. He knew what was coming. They didn't yell. They didn't accuse. They just asked him to explain. Why had he stopped Jamal Thompson? Why did he reach for his holster? Why did he ask for ID without cause? Whitmore didn't have the words. Not honest ones. Because he was tired. Because his father had been an officer who always said trust your gut. Because the job had hardened him. Because deep down, he had been afraid, not of Jamal, but of what it meant if his gut could no longer be trusted. He left that interview with more questions than answers. At the Southside Recreation Hall, the room was packed with reporters and journalists. Jamal stood behind a podium under harsh fluorescent lights. Reporters sat near the back. A microphone crackled. "Look, I didn't come here to point fingers. I'm not here because I want revenge or to cause drama. I'm here because I'm tired. Tired of being looked at like a threat just for standing still. Tired of walking into spaces and feeling like I have to prove I belong. Tired of the fear in people's eyes when all I've done is exist. I work double shifts at the hospital. I take care of people when they're at their worst. And then I step outside, and suddenly I'm treated like I don't deserve the same grace I give others every day. There are kind people in this world. I've met them. Strangers who smiled when they didn't have to. But too often what I meet is suspicion, judgment, silence that screams louder than words. That night at the station, I just wanted to go home. That's it. I wasn't protesting. I wasn't shouting. I was waiting for my sister. But even that was too much to do quietly and peacefully without being questioned. So yeah, I'm tired. But I'm also here. And I'm speaking because I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. And maybe if enough of us speak, something starts to shift." His voice never rose, but it filled the room like thunder. Officer Whitmore stood near the exit, hat in hand, listening. He didn't leave early. When it ended, Jamal walked past him. Their eyes met briefly, and for the first time, Whitmore didn't look away. 2 weeks later, a quiet knock came at Jamal's door. He opened it to find Whitmore, not in uniform. "Mr. Thompson," the officer said, clearing his throat. "I'm here, not as a cop, just as a man who got it wrong." Jamal didn't respond right away. Whitmore continued, "I grew up in this city. My old man was a beat cop here. He taught me to listen to instinct. But instincts aren't always right. Sometimes they're just habits dressed up in uniform." Jamal looked at him for a long time, then opened the door wider. "You want to come in?" It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. 3 weeks later, the train station was colder than Jamal remembered. Gray clouds had rolled in, casting the city in a dull half-light. He and Whitmore stood near the exact wall where it all started, as if retracing the outline of a ghost. Whitmore rubbed his palms together and exhaled slowly. "You sure about this?" Jamal nodded. "We said we'd do this together. Let's finish it together. They were there to meet City Councilwoman Elena Cruz. After the community forum, she'd reached out to Jamal personally, wanting to discuss broader reforms. What neither man knew was that this meeting would reveal far more than either expected. As they waited, a disturbance broke out near the old call box by the stairwell. Shouting, then the sound of a scuffle. A teenager, barely 16, was being shoved against the wall by another officer. His crime? Loitering with a backpack. Jamal moved first. "Hey!" Whitmore stepped up beside him. "Officer Briggs," he barked. "Stand down." Briggs looked over, confused. He wouldn't answer me. He looked nervous. "He's a kid," Jamal snapped. "And being nervous isn't a crime." The teen looked up, wide-eyed, breathing hard. "I was just waiting for my mom." Whitmore pulled out his badge. "Let him go." Briggs hesitated, then released the teen. He fled without a word. Councilwoman Cruz arrived seconds later, flanked by an aide. She had seen it all. "Looks like you two were right to bring me here," she said. "And I think the problem goes deeper than anyone's admitted." That night, Whitmore sat in his car, staring at an old file from a sealed precinct drawer. A name leapt off the page. Briggs. Years of excessive force complaints, most of them quietly dismissed. A name from deeper in the records caught his eye. Lieutenant Carl Dunbar, Whitmore's old training officer. Someone who had always taught him to be careful around certain neighborhoods, to trust the signs, to watch how they move. It all came rushing back. The biases he hadn't questioned, the slow shaping of his worldview. It was never about law. It was about fear, justified with power. He picked up the phone. "Jamal? You busy?" 2 months later, the city launched a full-scale inquiry into internal police misconduct. Whitmore had submitted a confidential report, naming names and detailing patterns of misconduct. Jamal, now acting as a community liaison for a local justice initiative, stood beside Councilwoman Cruz as new oversight legislation was introduced. But the change wasn't just political. One day, Jamal received an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from the teenager at the station. "Thanks for stepping in. I didn't know grown-ups still did that." Tucked with it was a drawing of Jamal and Whitmore standing like superheroes under a street lamp. Jamal's hands trembled as he read it. The station had changed. The cracked brick wall had been replaced. A mural now stood there. Bright colors depicting a nurse in scrubs standing beside an officer, both holding lanterns in the fog. At the bottom, a quote, "The light only matters because of the shadows it reveals." But the mural was more than just paint on brick. It was a symbol, a gathering place. Flowers sometimes appeared at its base. Notes, poems, stories written by students. One note in particular caught Jamal's eye. "My brother died in this station 5 years ago. No one ever questioned it. Until now. Thank you." Jamal stood silently before the mural that day, letting the weight of it rest on his shoulders. It wasn't pride he felt, not satisfaction, but something quieter, more honest, continuation. As if healing wasn't a finish line but a thread, passed hand to hand. Later that month, a documentary team began filming a series on urban reform titled Through the Fog. Jamal was their first subject, then Whitmore, then Councilwoman Cruz. They filmed interviews in the station, on hospital grounds, at precinct doors. Footage of the mural opened every episode. In one interview, Jamal said, "I didn't set out to change anything. I just wanted to go home that night. That's what people miss. It wasn't about protest. It was about peace." In another, Whitmore admitted, "I thought I was protecting the city, but I was protecting the fear inside me." Turns out that's the real danger. The series went viral. Students studied it. Officers were required to view it during training. For the first time in decades, precinct culture began to shift. Slower than anyone liked, but shifting. One afternoon, Jamal got a call from Internal Affairs. "Mr. Thompson, We'd like your perspective on an ongoing investigation. It concerns a precinct in North Point. The complaints mirror your case." He hesitated. North Point, his father's old neighborhood. "I'll come," Jamal said, "but only if Whitmore's with me." And he was. The two men sat across from a new generation of officers and investigators. Jamal presented data, patterns, outcomes. Whitmore spoke about what it cost to unlearn everything he'd been taught. The case unraveled faster than expected. A precinct captain resigned. An officer fled the country. A buried folder was unearthed. Dozens of civilian complaints altered or discarded. Among the names was the officer who had arrested Jamal's uncle 23 years ago. Jamal sat with that revelation in silence. The pain of it didn't knock him over. It settled inside him like a stone at the bottom of a river. Always there, but no longer pulling him under. 2 years later, Whitmore now taught at the academy full-time. His course was unofficially dubbed the Reckoning Class. He brought in community members to speak, former inmates, activists, even teenagers from the train station mural program. Jamal co-founded a nonprofit called Fogbreak. Its mission was simple: prevent what happened to him from happening to someone else. They offered bystander training, legal workshops, and trauma counseling. One program stood out: the Shadow Stories. Every month, a young person who had encountered law enforcement was paired with an officer. They weren't there to debate, just to listen. One session ended with a student saying, "I didn't expect you to cry. I thought you people didn't." The officer responded, "We weren't allowed to, but now we are." It was dusk again. The train station, once a cold battleground of suspicion and silence, now held a different energy. Where the old call box had once stood, a rusted, forgotten relic, there was now a sleek, new emergency communication hub. Painted in soft blue and gold, it stood beside a plaque, dedicated to those who spoke up when silence was safer. In memory of the past, in service of the future. Fogbreak Foundation 2028. Jamal pressed a hand to the metal, feeling its cool surface hum beneath his fingers. Children's laughter rang from the mural plaza nearby. A young black girl skipped past holding her mother's hand. No fear, just joy. Behind him, Whitmore stepped out of a taxi. Slower now, a cane in hand, but steady. "You really built all this?" Whitmore said, looking around at the community garden beside the station. The student art banners overhead, the benches engraved with quotes about empathy and courage. Jamal shook his head. "No, we built it, and we're still building." A bus pulled up. Out stepped a new officer, fresh uniform, wide eyes. She paused at the sight of them, recognizing them from the academy videos. She nodded respectfully. Jamal smiled. "Change isn't a moment. It's a relay." Whitmore grinned. "And it looks like the next runner's ready." They watched as the new officer approached a teenage boy standing nervously by the wall, just like Jamal had all those months ago. But this time there was no hand on the holster. No demands. Just a question. "Need help finding your bus?" And a smile in return. Jamal exhaled slowly, heart lighter. Above them, dusk deepened into twilight. But the call box glowed. Because change wasn't a speech. It wasn't a mural. It was showing up again and again. Because the fog wasn't gone. But the light was stronger. And they carried it together. If you've listened this far, tell me where you're listening from. Because stories like this, they matter. And next time, I'll tell you what they found behind that bricked wall beneath Whitechapel Station. You won't want to miss it. Click on the subscribe button for more.